Okay, so gravity being pulled down. So just relax so that you can really feel gravity pulling at you. And remember, we sink in order to get the rising energy from the ground coming up through the body. So just feel the feet flat on the floor. So once you've got this pull down, you can use your feet to sort of squeeze on the floor to drive the energy from the ground up yourself. And so in one sense, you're just relaxing and letting yourself be pulled down, but in another sense, you're sort of working the ground a little bit in order to squeeze this rising energy up you. Okay, and now just very gently, just moving. And so just feel yourself being pulled down. So you're working just right at the limit. You've got just enough strength to make this movement. And so to move from here to here, I need to sort of wriggle the ground a little bit. So I'm twisting the foot, I'm working the leg, sort of wriggling a little bit to get this energy coming up, this coil, like a snake that's coming up my leg and up into here, and then I can let it take me. Yeah? So we're just trying to make sure it's the energy that moves us rather than the force. So it's not a strong leg moving a heavy body. It's a loose, relaxed leg that's squeezing energy up through the body, and the energy takes the body. So here I just have to work the ground like a muscle that's just sort of pumping a little bit, and something comes up, and then I can flow across. And so I do something with my leg to sort of activate the ground so that something can bubble up. It's a bit like those, you know, those deep sea nature programs where you've got the sort of those geothermal vents, you know, where you've got the volcano, the volcanoes underneath the sea. And you just see this sort of hot water rising out of these vents. So it's a bit like that. It's like I do something to sort of break the crust of the ground, and then this energy can rise up into me. Yeah, so there's something very sort of organic about it. So I'm working with this seemingly inert thing, which is the ground beneath my foot, but I'm piercing it in order to get this sort of heat rising up through me. And what enables it is the fluidity and the flexibility in this part. So we'll work on this. Let's just do a couple more of these. Just so something here digs down and dredges up something that I can then take across. Whoa. Okay, so let's just bring it back to here. Yeah, so in a way, it all hinges on the relaxation here. This is the thing that when I work with people, and this is the thing they tend not to have. Even dancers are stiff here. It's like they're pulling their buttocks in too much and tightening their back, and that's making this point here sort of hard because it's got like strips of muscle running across it. We want to really break here, like you're preparing to sit down. Yeah. And so it's that that gives it the sort of the looseness and the softness in the hips. that enables this part of your body to work the ground, even though it's, you know, a meter or so from the ground. So let's just fold here a little bit. So imagine someone just pushing in. Yeah. And then to come back, instead of just pushing back against your fingers by holding back, just bring your hands to the back and just relax by sweeping your buttocks down into the thighs. Yeah. So this action here will tend to tip you forwards a little bit, which is fine. And then this action here will tend to right you. So folding here. And then just relaxing down here, like your buttocks become heavy and pendulous, hanging down. And so this is the important one. And Tai Chi people tend to have it least of all in a way, because they've been told from day one to get their bum in. And the way they do that is by thrusting their pelvis forwards, which is not quite the same thing. So what we need to do is to be able to just roll the pelvis, yeah, by relaxing in here, just like you're going to sit down. Yeah. And then just relax here to come back up. So let's just try this, so releasing here. So just imagine you're sitting down. Yeah. So just how far down can you go into a squat? Yeah. And then just release here. Feel as though your back is just flattening out and your bum is coming in. So you need to come up a bit for that. Yeah. And then releasing here. Think of your tail extending out behind you. Yeah. So, and then one. Yeah, so you can go down as far as you like, or not as far as you like. Okay, now let's try sort of one at a time. So if I release here, then what it will do is turn me away from the center. And then if I release here, it will bring me back to the center. And then I release here, ooh, and then I release here. Yeah, so we want the movement of the waist to come from a release. It's not just that I'm being pushed here and that turns me. It's an emotional response. So as I break here, something in me just sort of, almost like I burst into tears, I break. Something in me breaks, and that out of that comes this turn. Yeah. And then when I release at the back here, again, something in me breaks, but it's a different break. And that brings me back to the front. And then here I just, something in me just, like the bottom falling out of a bucket. And then here, this will tend to pull me back to the front. This releases. And this releases. It's like we're just looking at that, like that point, that moment of breaking, like when you burst into tears, or when the tears come into your eyes, what is it that's made it happen? Yeah. What's happened inside that has caused that physical response? Can we stretch that moment of tearfulness? Yeah, so this is like a really vulnerable opening. And then this is like a containing. Here it's like you're containing that. You're not stopping it. You're just embracing it. So here something breaks. And then there's another part of you operating from the back that actually spreads out and envelops that breakage, contains it. So here I release. And then from the behind, it's almost like I'm slipping into like a rubbery chute, and it's holding me. I'm sinking back into it, and it springs me forwards. And then, so when you try both at the same time, so when you break with both, then effectively you're turning both directions. So you're turning this way and this way. Yeah, so there's a sort of almost like a cleft opens up in the body. Yeah? And then when you release here, it's like the two sides come in. This is more like the containment of ward off or yielding. And this is like opening up a crack so that something can come out of you and attack. Yeah? And then you contain that. There's only so much of that you can handle. Let's bring it back here. And now let's just move again from leg to leg a little bit. We just really sort of work the ground. So I'm pushing down on the ground in order to get this energy coming up. And it's all coming from the looseness in the hip. Yeah, so this action of bringing energy up from the ground is very much an action in the belly. It's not an action in the leg. I release, and then I almost grab a handful and pull it back up. I release, so that's this here, breaking. And then I just release here and contract the down chin and just pull. So I'm pulling here, and that will scoop something up. Ooh. Yeah, so in a sense it's mechanical, but it's all generated by movement here, which is governing what's happening in the belly. So it's very much like the octopus, like sending out a tentacle in order to pull something back up. One. And then just back to here. And just now just feel those 2 feet holding you. Yeah. So the feeling is that you're sort of like 2 beings. You're these 2 legs that have reached here and then have coiled around each other. Yeah, so that you're just a play between these 2 sides, between the left and the right side. And the 2 sides are sort of, they've got their own independence, but it's like the interaction of those 2 sides that produces my livingness, my being. Now let's just move. And so just think, when we've got arms and legs. So the arms move the world relative to me. So my hands pick things up and bring them in. So that assumes that this is relatively stable. But what the legs are used to doing is moving the body relative to the earth. Yeah? So we want to do that energetically as well. If you were to tell someone, okay, push into the ground with your foot, they would tend to throw the hip forwards. Whereas in actual fact, if you're using the leg properly, then the hip will actually move back. And that's exactly what you do if you go walking. You just don't think about it. Yeah. But you're moving your own body relative to the ground. So here, just feel the 2 feet on the ground. Yeah? So you just push the ground with the foot, and that push coils up the body and into the opposite hand. Yeah? And then if I push the ground with this foot, it will turn me this direction, assuming this leg is bracing me, and coil round into this hand. Yeah? So I'm using my feet on the ground in order to get the energy to come up into the opposite hand. So it's just pure cross energy. Yeah? But in order to get the energy to come up, I need to let the hip go back. Yeah? And then you can see that this hand comes forwards. Yeah? So effectively, I'm bringing, if I was being forceful, then I would bring this hand forwards by pushing the hip forwards. Yeah? But I'm not. I'm using energy. So what that means is that I'm actually pushing this hip back to get this hand to come forwards. Yeah? And then I use this foot on the ground and let this hip go back. And almost by accident, as like a byproduct, this hand comes forwards. So it's automatically stopped because my mind is not quite in it the same manipulative way it would be. And so I'm using this leg to push this hip back, which is squeezing this energy that we've been dredging up from the ground into the opposite hand. Yeah. And so I'm pushing, and something's coming up here. And then I'm pushing here. Yeah. And then, so what we want to just feel is the connection between the foot and the hand, rather than the hip and the hand. So it's not like in Kung Fu, you know, where they're throwing the fist out with a flick of the hip. It's not like Bruce Lee and all that. It's more subtle. So you see, I'm getting the attack to come from the yield, if you like. And so here I'm pushing back, and this just sort of, it comes out really sort of shapeless and soft. So wow, something comes in to the opposite side of the body. So here pushing. And so from here and up. Yeah, so it's just exactly what we were doing before when we were going side to side, but now we're just getting the twist. So here I've got my push. Yeah, so just like think of that hot water that's coming out of the vent in the deep ocean, you know, where you've got one of those cracks. You can see it when they're shining the lights of the camera, you can see it sort of moving, that movement within the hot water that's rising. Yeah, but it has a sort of degree of turbulence and a degree of sort of randomness, and that's what we want to feel in our own body. So something is happening here and something's coming out, but I want it to be almost it's not a function of my controlling mind. It's a function of my organic body, my emptiness, if you like, my willingness to just be a channel for energy, rather than a remote transcendental mind that's trying to control everything from a distance. Yeah. So here, something coils up and out. Yeah, so just feel that pressure on the foot and the connection with this hand. It's like a snake. A snake has wriggled up through it, or a worm from the mud. It's like my foot has penetrated the mud and something has wriggled up my body and expresses in the hand. Ooh. and then just back. Yeah, so it should, you know, after each exercise, it just feels that much more fluid, that much more full of movement. The movement is like completely sort of random. As soon as there's any irregularity, it's a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's got stuck, like the record on the groove, you know, clicking and repeating itself all the time. Okay, and now let's just, yeah, so this is the motor, it's the Danchen breathing. And what we were doing, you know, with the here and here is just, it's just the same thing with. So this is breaking here, allowing this out, allowing this opening, and then this is closing it all down, bringing the two sides in and pushing back towards, this is releasing here, and then yeah, so we just want to feel that really fundamental, deep rhythm, that deep pump within the body, the craniosacral pump, which is what this is connected to. So something in me, everything in me is expanding, and then everything in me starts contracting, but it's all centered here, but barely. And now let's just intensify it just with the breathing. Yeah? So just making that small hole with the mouth. Yeah? So we just want to, so, you know, when they meditate, well, basically what you're trying to do when you quieten the mind is just like create a thread of time, a thread where your mind is present without breaking for as long as possible. Yeah. And so in meditation, they concentrate on the breathing. So you feel the breath coming in, and then you feel it going out, and you just keep that rhythmical continuity until you start thinking about something, and then you bring it back, and when they count their breaths. So what makes it difficult is the fact that the breathing is easy. It's easy to breathe. When something is difficult, people tend to concentrate on it better. If they don't have a choice, if they don't concentrate, they just can't do it. So we just make the breathing a little bit more difficult by just breathing in through a smaller hole. Yeah? So just breathe in through the mouth and just suck the breath in. So I breathe in and then I breathe out. And I just have to find the size of the hole. So it makes it a little bit difficult. So I become very much aware of the muscles involved in sucking that air in, which are fundamentally here, and the muscles involved with squeezing the air out. So if the hole is too small, it'll be too difficult, and you won't get enough air in, and you'll start getting breathless, you know? So you just have to regulate it. So you want to feel the contraction in the belly that sucks the air in. And then, again, the belly is working to get the air out. So there's not a lot of difference between the action of getting the air in and the action of squeezing the air out. It's still a muscular action here. So this is pulling in. And then this is exhaling. Yeah, so and so you're breathing in as you squeeze in. So where's the breath going? Because this is actually contracting. So the breath is actually being squeezed into your back. And that's what we want to try and feel. And then when you breathe out, everything comes forwards here. And then when I breathe in, I suck it all in through here, through the soles of my feet, the perineum. Everything is pulling into the belly, but it's the contents are squeezing out into this vastness behind me, into this cape, if you like. It's like a cape or wings. John used to call it wings. Breathing in. And then breathing out. Yeah, so I shrink and become small and humble, but I'm breathing in at the same time. So it's very deceptive because I'm becoming a real pressure cooker. And that pressure is squeezing into the energy that's coming out of my back and my kidneys and my spine, back to my lungs, into my wings, might be this sort of energy body that John was delineating. So here, breathing in. You know, so it's like you become this sort of high energy, high pressure center that's surrounded by all these swirls of light energy, like mist, you know. So it's like you produce like a mirage. And then you emerge from it, but you can only emerge from it by releasing the pressure. And then you slip back into the mist, if you like. Okay, and then let's just bring it back. So again, just feel gravity pulling down and feel this other body growing out of that. And this other body is the one that has all these sort of twists and turns, all this sort of, it's like something in the ocean. Okay. And now let's just turn. But again, turning by breaking. But what we want to feel is this break then interacting with the break here. So this break is trying to do this and turn me this way. And this break is trying to do this and turn me this way. Yeah. So when I turn, basically there's a turn and a return. I mean, you don't turn very far before you have to come back. So there's an interaction between these two movements. Yeah. So let's just try that. So just breaking here, and then just feel this one just naturally bringing you back. Yeah. So something here breaks. I want to feel the emotional response. So, and then here, it's like there's something very reassuring about the release from the back. It's like you've fallen into safety. It's like here you've taken a real risk. And then suddenly there's this soft hand behind you. It's just stroking you. And it brings you back. Yeah? So here, this is the difficult bit here. And it's the fact that you know that there's this thing behind you to catch you that enables you to release the front. So here, and yeah, so this is basically ward off. So a ward off is really like a breakage that's contained. So one, and then ooh. Yeah, this is almost like I'm spilling, something is spilling out of me, and then here something slips down and actually scoops me up and contains me. Yeah? And then when we do that, so ward off is basically, you know, the straight arm becoming a curve. So the attacking hand, the hand that's just attacked, by breaking here, I roll into this sheet, if you like. This, my arm now becomes that sheet behind me that's containing it. And then here, so this is like back foot energy. So when you're using back foot energy, it's very much like a straight line that's coming from the ground up the body and through. So this, if you like, is the back foot becoming and then rolling into the front foot, and then it's suddenly got this containing thing. It's all happened because something in me is broken here and broken here. So this is what we want to just try and feel. So let's just send the hand out and now just break here and just turn into this ward off. So the hand doesn't really move. What's happening is you're rolling into this line. There's a line from my shoulder to my hand. The hand doesn't move, but I break here and here, and that line becomes a curve. It becomes ward off. Yeah. And so now I'm in the front foot, in this foot. Yeah. And now I just push back into this foot. And now this is the straight line coming through, and then I just break here. I break here, and because I break here, it breaks here as well. So we're just trying to just see how ward off is produced. It's from the yielding, it's from the breakage. Yeah? So something in me rolls and releases. And I roll into this, it's like a sheet that's come out of my back, and I just roll into it, and then it springs me back out. So it's got a buoyancy to it, like the rubber of the trampoline skin. I'm rolling into this. This has to remain really empty, and then I'll roll out. So 1, 2. Yeah, so what makes ward off powerful is that it's a container for absolute tenderness and openness and breakage. Yeah, so there's like a real contrast between the container, which is this beautiful roundness, and what it actually contains, which is this weeping, bleeding softness. Yeah? So, and just feel that breaking. So you turn by breaking, something in you just starts bleeding. Yeah? So the turn is as far as you could possibly get from a mechanical action. It's the emotional action. It's a feeling. Yeah? So something in me just releases. And then this can remain soft. So we're just looking at softness really. You know, John was always adamant that, you know, when you're properly soft, you're in pain. You know, softness is the ache in every dream to be a better soul. That's what he said. So it's like a real sort of, it's like an aching tenderness that you just contain. You know, you can contain your softness, your pain. Now let's just try. Let's just work waving hands like flags. I always think. So you've got these two. So this comes up from this foot, and then you, as you come into this foot, you break here, and you just roll into it. So this, as you sink into this foot, this becomes active, and then you just roll. Yeah, so the softness is like it's a function of the outer phaseness. The fact that I'm rolling here and the arm just wants to stay behind. Everything is lagging. Everything is lagging in the motor. Yeah, so it's not this. It's not sort of a mechanical everything together. You know, you've got to somehow just get the arm sort of loose. And so sort of what, you know, in Tai Chi they call it boneless movement. And like your bones have just disappeared and you've just become like this sort of jelly that's just rippling with energy. Okay. Just back to here. Yes, so from your back, you've got this container that's containing these breakages. Okay. So now just the same thing really, but just let's make it simple. So just a figure of 8. Yeah, so I break here, and then this softens, and that brings me around. Break here, this softens. Okay, yeah, so release, release. This releases, this then releases, and that brings me back. This releases, this. Yeah, so we're just trying to get movement that's coming from a releasing relaxation rather than a tension that's producing something. So I release it and I release here. And that takes me into the leg and turns me and brings me back. I release here, I release here. So it's always possible to do it the other way, to do it mechanically and stupidly. And that's the problem with human beings. We're so good at lying. We're so good at pretending. Yeah. So this is like just trying your best just to be honest and open. So whoa. Yeah, so it just becomes the figure of 8 exercise. Eventually, if you let it, there's the arms take. Yeah, so as we break here and break back, it's just coming over the top of the figure of 8. It's just coming over. So up and over, up. Yeah. And if you look at it, then the only reason we're stupid is because we can't concentrate. You know, so this movement of the arms, it's all happening because of what's happening here. Yeah. And it's not moving here, it's releasing. I release, I release, I release, I release. Yeah. It's just like fucking someone. And you're fucking yourself. It's rocking the pelvis, really. Okay. And then back to here. Okay, so now let's just use it to step. So let's just try that very first step in the form. Okay. So basically, you're just stepping out to the side and just doing this in the very beginning of the form. But we want to get it to happen because of what we've been working on today. So in order to take myself into the foot, I have to break into it. Yeah. So I basically break here, and that just rolls me this way. And I sort of fall down into this foot. Yeah. But then I need to step. So basically, you know, whenever anything happens in touch, it normally happens because you change direction in the waist. Yeah. So here I'm breaking here, but then it's this break here that actually lifts the foot. Yeah. So we'll just try and feel that. So I break here, and that takes me into this leg. But there's no reason for this foot to come off the ground other than me hoiking it, which I don't really want to do. So what I need to do is turn back, and I turn back by releasing from the sacroiliac, releasing the buttock down the leg. So I release here to get myself from the middle into the leg, and then I release here like I'm pulling my bum in, yeah, and that lifts my knee. Yeah, so just, yeah. So it's like this has come down. So I've just basically produced this circuit, because when I break here, if anything, I'm producing this circuit. Yeah. So when I turn away from the center, I'm doing breaking that way, and then I just pull this in here by releasing at the back, and that will bring my leg off the ground. Yeah. So we just want to feel that. Yeah. So releasing here, that takes me into the foot, and then releasing here, and this, by sending something down my back, I get the knee to come up the front. It's like I've produced a wheel, and I've sunk down the back, and then something has come up the front. Yeah, so let's just try it a few times. So I'll just break, and then release here, and the knee comes up. Yeah. So break, and release. And break, and release. Yeah, so again, it's all coming from the rocking of the pelvis. So this is sending my bum out, if anything. And then this is just bringing it back in again. And then you can just place the foot. And then you just break here, and that takes you into this leg. And then you break here, and it brings you back up, and you just circle the hands at the same time. Yeah. So you just basically you've just done a figure of 8 in the waist. So I release here, and then I release at the back, and that brings the knee up, I step, then I release here, and that will take me into this leg. And then I release here, and I can just let the hands circle. So now I'm in this foot, but I'm coming out, if you like, I'm coming up. Yeah. Okay, let's try again. So release one, and then back, step, release here, that sends my bum out, and then I release here, and that brings me up, but from the ground. So releasing here, 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 here. Yeah. So basically, you just go, that's the motor for moving, in Tai Chi. Just releasing here, and then releasing the back to get the foot off the ground, and then I step. And that release from the back is actually still, when we split it up, it tends to get artificial because we stop. But you wouldn't really, so then here this releases. That gets me down, and then I just release here, and that scoops under the ground and brings my hands. Yeah. So you've got two very different realities going on. There's one inside here, which is this breaking and this spilling and this bleeding. And then you've got the one from behind, which is this containing, almost watertight, rubbery container that you're bouncing, you're falling into all the time, and it's springing you back. So I release here, I release here. That takes me across, I release here, and I release here. Yeah. So 1, 2, and 1, 2. So this is very intimate. It's all to do with being very close to someone. And this is very containing. So it contains the intimacy. So here I'm breaking, but I can only break if I know that breakage can be contained. Otherwise, I just feel I'm leaking all the time and losing my energy. So I have to have real confidence in my own strength from my back. Otherwise, I won't be able to break the front. So I need to really feel that this, I could stand like this forever, with this flow down my back, circulating like this. And then I break here, knowing that this will come to my rescue. Okay, let's just try a few going the other way. So just breaking here, and then releasing here, and that will bring the knee up. The knee comes up because I've sunk down the back. Yeah? And then I just send that out, and this sinking down the back continues turning. And then I break here, and then sink down the back here, and that will. Yeah. So let's just go backwards and forwards. So just 1, 2, and 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 1. And then one more. 1, 2, 1. So just think of Mac. He just does this naturally. So, good. And now let's just stand and riding horse again. And again, just feeling that downward streaming of gravity. So you've got gravity pulling down, and we connect with that really totally, wholeheartedly, so that we can produce this body of energy that comes up. Yeah? And then you've got this down Shen, which is holding on, sort of bubbling away, brooding. Yeah? And that, what that does, it produces this emanation of lightness and radiance and softness. So you've got the down producing the up, and you've got that internal pull producing this external sort of glow, if you like. And that's basically our being, and then we just move around. And so what we're looking at today is the mechanics of moving. You know, how do we move without interrupting these two forces, the force of the Earth's gravity and the force of your gravity? Yes, that's like gravity. That's the Earth. The Earth and the sky, if you like, or the air. Everything that's sort of here, that's on this sort of, in this world. Yeah, so we haven't even touched on the heavens. So that's the draw here. So that's quite different. Yeah, but what I want to impress really is that, you know, when you work on the ground, when you work on Earth, on gravity, it produces a softness that is so light it almost floats. Yeah. And so it's like paradoxical. You'd expect maybe to become heavy and lumpy, but actually it produces this almost where your movements aren't governed by gravity anymore, because the energy that's bubbling up is against, it's got no bearing on gravity. Gravity is just the producer. Gravity doesn't pull us energy, because energy is weightless. Yeah? So you become full of this weightless movement, and that gives the body the feeling that it's sort of suspended in water or in the fluid. It's sort of floating almost. But that's only possible because you've got your root. You've clamped onto the ground so that you can become these flows from the ground. Okay, so now let's just bring it back. So again, just feel these. These are, it's like they're ready to break all the time. You're ready to tip over. And the only thing that stops that from happening are these two hands at the back that are just always there and always saying, it's okay, I'm here. It's like your conscience. And we just have to keep those open all the time so that they can play together. And as soon as this goes off on its own little travails, then everything clamps down and you become a frozen lump of shit, basically. Okay. Okay, so let's finish it.